Hi, and welcome back. In this video, we are continuing to dig into all of the amazing health benefits associated with intermittent fasting. Aside from, the weight loss, we have a lot to cover. So let's get started. Video started with a discussion about how intermittent fasting can help change the fat composition in our bodies. Introducing intermittent fasting benefit number 8, a reduction in visceral fat and an increase in brown fat. Before I explain how intermittent fasting comes in for the win, let's chat about what kind of fat we don't want on our bodies and what kind of fat we actually do. First things first, fat cells are our body's natural storage containers. The body does a tremendous job at packing away energy in these storage containers. But not only that, the body also places harmful toxins within these storage containers so that the toxins are not cruising around in the body, wreaking havoc. That's right, fat cells are some of the good guys. But just because we like having our friends around doesn't mean that things can't get out of control when we're exceeding the recommended limit capacity. Let's talk about the breakdown. When we're talking about the vast majority of fat located on our bodies, white fat takes the cake. It has prime real estate set up in all of the visible problem areas on our bodies, and it's also what visceral fat is comprised of. Visceral fat is what we naturally have padding all of our vital organs. It serves as a natural protective measure, like a shock absorber, against potential external trauma. That being said, it's also an inflammatory fat. An accumulation of this fat can result in metabolic syndrome, fatty liver, and diabetes. This buildup of white fat is also problematic because it produces a surplus of estrogen in the form of estrone, which can cause a disruption in hormone balance. And it's also linked with some types of cancer. Brown fat, on the other hand, is not as plentiful in the body. This is unfortunate because this is the type of real estate that we actually want. Its role is somewhat different than that of white fat. It is similar in that it helps to provide energy. However, this type of fat also impacts our metabolism. Studies in which individuals have increased their brown fat composition have demonstrated an increase in their metabolism. Brown fat also helps to maintain our body temperature. It does this by breaking down glucose and white fat, essentially using them as fuel. It is also recognized as housing many more mitochondria than what is found in white fat. So how does this tie into intermittent fasting? Research demonstrates that intermittent fasting results in an increase in brown fat. Not only that, intermittent fasting helps to convert some of this white fat into the more energy-rich brown fat. But that isn't the only way that intermittent fasting helps. Another interesting finding, visceral fat specifically appears to be targeted with intermittent fasting, and it is broken down more readily, meaning that it helps to remove the accumulation of white fat that we have surrounding our vital organs. Yes, belly fat. The next benefit is a hot topic. Introducing benefit number 9, intermittent fasting resets hunger hormones. If you listen to any of my other videos, you'll soon learn that intermittent fasting has everything to do with addressing hormone imbalance. Weight loss is not merely a mind over matter situation or a sign of weakness. When we fail to have long-term success with weight loss, it is extremely common to become deconditioned to the signals that our bodies provide, leading to overeating. This is because we learn to override our satiety signals, commonly seen in those of us that have it ingrained to finish off every bite of food that we have on the plate in front of us. A key thing to remember is that when we practice intermittent fasting, we are eating to satiety, not to be confused with feeling stuffed or needing to loosen our belt. Intermittent fasting results in increased sensitivity to our leptin hormone. Leptin is the hormone that we bulldoze right through when we overeat and we become desensitized. Sound familiar? We end up needing more and more of this hormone for our body to register that it's there, hence a surplus. which is easily ignored. This ties into the analogy of a baby sleeping in a crowded, loud, busy room. It learns to sleep through anything, but place that baby in a quiet room and it will suddenly wake right up. In this same way, when we allow our bodies to heal, we again begin to register and become sensitive to that oh-so-forgotten stimulus, leptin. On the other side of the coin, we have hormones that trigger our hunger. Introducing ghrelin. This hormone calls to mind a picture of an internal, hangry little gremlin demanding to be acknowledged. In a study examining the effects of extended fasting, which is discussed in the book Life in the Fasting Lane, by the way, I highly recommend adding this book to your reading list. Back to our study. Individuals were followed over a period of 3 days in which they did an extended fast. During that time, ghrelin levels were tested every 20 minutes. What they found over that period of 3 days was that participants experienced a decrease in ghrelin. Yes, you heard that right. What this translates to is a decrease in our hunger hormone that has us chasing our next meal or running to the fridge. A little bit more about ghrelin. It has been noted that surges of this hormone are seen at times in which individuals typically eat, which lends to the idea that these surges can be a trained response. How can we combat these surges of ghrelin? By intermittent fasting, of course, but also by breaking these habitual patterns of eating. I'm guilty too. And speaking of breaking habits, an all too common habit is to pour a bowl of cereal in the morning or to grab something quick and easy as we're running out the door heading to work. And this is the perfect segue into our next benefit. Benefit number 10. Intermittent fasting can boost your metabolism. So you're probably wondering, how is this connected? Hold that thought. Now, if you've arched a skeptical brow, let me reaffirm what I said. Yes, intermittent fasting can boost your metabolism. Okay, so how does intermittent fasting result in an increased metabolism? The answer has to do, of course, with hormones. We have our major players that are present whenever we eat, and we have our counter-regulatory hormones that are present when we put the fork down. In my previous video, I explained the role of insulin and how when this hormone is kept in check, it allows other hormones to function as they're programmed to do. So let's introduce our counter-regulatory hormones. The first hormone that I want to zero in on is noradrenaline, which is the metabolism enhancing hormone. It is responsible for preparing your body for action. It also increases muscle contractility, heart rate, and mental alertness. Noradrenaline also helps to break down fat stores, which our body uses as a form of energy. Okay, so as promised, let's go back into our segue about breaking habits and specifically skipping breakfast. So let's talk about what we can expect if we skip over what is commonly known as the most important meal of the day. Let's start by throwing this out there. Studies have demonstrated that ghrelin, our hunger hormone, is naturally lower first thing in the morning, which means that we aren't always hungry. By contrast, our noradrenaline is up because it's responsible for waking us up and getting us ready for the day. Another key player is glucagon, the hormone responsible for breakdown of stored glucose. Now remember, we typically have stored glucose in our liver and our muscle tissue. This hormone is a blood glucose stabilizer, and it is ever at the ready to break down stored glucose and later body fat to convert them into energy and as fuel for the day. Noradrenaline, glucagon, along with other key counter-regulatory hormones, which include human growth hormone and cortisol, get us primed and ready, letting insulin grab a seat and letting these counter-regulatory hormones take the stage can make all of the difference between flipping the switch and going into storage mode versus allowing our bodies to continue into what is already naturally occurring, which is active metabolism. And let me add, as a longtime avid breakfast enthusiast, it is possible to get through the morning without eating breakfast. I promise. In fact, it becomes increasingly easier, and it can also result in increased energy as opposed to the sluggishness and crash that we can experience with some of the all too common breakfast options. Not only that, I frequently, if not most days, open my window with a breakfast option, which goes to show that you're not giving up breakfast. You are merely moving it back to a later time. In the meantime, the hormones that your body naturally produces get you ready to face the day. And this is the perfect time to introduce benefit number 11. Intermittent fasting helps with metabolic flexibility. As your body adjusts to burning through its more easily accessible forms of stored glucose, it transitions and becomes more proficient at burning fat for fuel. We have the expression, saving it for a rainy day, and the body is truly frugal with saving the fat. But in Life in the Fasting Lane, this is what Dr. Fung nails when he compares the body's natural propensity for hitting up the fridge for a quick snack versus trudging down to the basement, opening up the deep freezer, and defrosting our next meal. Our body clearly has a preference, but through intermittent fasting, we naturally increase our capacity to defrost our freezer and to use a fat for fuel in place of looking the other way and allowing it to continue to accumulate for a rainy day. This is what is referred to as metabolic flexibility. Okay, now moving on to benefit number 12, autophagy. And this is at the top of my favorites. Imagine having a souped up housekeeping crew that sweeps in, does a deep clean, goes through all of your cabinets, throws out everything expired, does a level up, a recycling, upcycling of all of the clutter that you have laying around and don't use anymore, and then they leave you with an immaculate house. That is the process of autophagy in the body. Autophagy is this process of upcycling and recycling and damaged, old, mutated cells that can potentially be problematic and can result in cancer, for example. As part of the recycling, autophagy leaves the body with better functioning cells. In fact, research has linked intermittent fasting to slowing down and potentially preventing some forms of cancer. It is also recognized for enhancing mitochondrial health, our powerhouse cells in the body, as well as clearing out bacteria and viruses, not to mention repairing DNA. Okay, everyone. I hope that this video has served as an absolute wealth of information when it comes to intermittent fasting and its health benefits. However, this list of benefits is not at all inclusive, so stay tuned as I continue to cover all of my favorites. I'll see you in the next one.